The familiar hum of the environmental systems was the first thing Aurelia Solaris noticed as she stepped onto the main concourse of Nexus 7. The orbital station's bustling central hub teemed with life forms from across the galaxy, a kaleidoscope of colors, shapes, and technologies mingling in the artificial gravity. She kept her eyes forward, shoulders squared, as she navigated through the crowd. 7 feet tall with shimmering golden energy that pulsed beneath her translucent skin. Aurelia was impossible to miss. The molten glow that traced her veins and outlined her muscle structure marked her as different even among her own kind. She felt the familiar weight of stares, some curious, most wary, following her path across the polished floor. "Look at the size of that Solarian," a voice whispered, not quite quietly enough. "They say she can manipulate gravitational fields with her bare hands." "Genetic mistake," another voice replied. "No wonder she's alone." Aurelia had learned to ignore such comments. As Nexus 7's lead gravitational engineer, she was respected for her abilities, if not for her appearance. The pulsing energy beneath her skin, a side effect of the experimental gravitational manipulation genes her parents had authorized, made her an outcast among her own species. No Solarian male had ever approached her for companionship, much less courtship. Her size and abilities made her too intimidating, too different. She made her way toward the engineering sector, her long strides carrying her efficiently through the crowd that parted before her. A minor fluctuation in the station's core had been reported, nothing serious, but as chief engineer, she took every anomaly seriously. As she approached the transit tube, a sudden commotion near the diplomatic docking bay caught her attention. A new delegation had arrived, and the usual protocol officers were scrambling to arrange the proper welcoming ceremony. From their rushed preparations, Aurelia deduced it must be the Earth contingent, scheduled to negotiate new trade routes through the Outer Rim. She had never had much interaction with humans. They were relatively new to interstellar politics, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 3 decades ago. Their rapid integration into the galactic community had been impressive, if somewhat disruptive to established power structures. Turning away, Aurelia continued toward her destination. The engineering bay would be quieter, more predictable. Among her instruments and equations, she found a peace that eluded her in social settings. "Excuse me," a voice called from behind her. Aurelia paused, assuming the person was addressing someone else. No one sought her out in public unless there was an emergency. "Excuse me, miss, I think you dropped this." She turned, surprised. A human male stood before her, holding out a data chip, her security clearance for the gravity core. It must have slipped from her pocket. What struck her wasn't his height, though at just over 6 feet. He was tall for a human, but his expression, he was smiling at her. Not the forced, diplomatic smile she occasionally received from colleagues, but a genuine, warm expression that reached his eyes. "Thank you," she said, reaching for the chip. Her golden energy pulsed more brightly as their fingers nearly touched, an involuntary response she couldn't control. Instead of flinching away as most would, the human's smile widened slightly. "No problem. I'm Marcus Clark, Earth Diplomatic Corps." He extended his hand in the human custom of greeting. Aurelia hesitated before carefully taking his hand. She was acutely aware of her strength and the energy rippling beneath her skin. "Aurelia Solaris, Engineering Division." His grip was firm, unafraid. "Engineering? Perfect. I'm a bit turned around. Actually, could you point me toward the station commander's office? I'm supposed to report there, but this place is massive." "It's in the administrative section, level 3. She pointed toward the appropriate transit tube. "2 stops from here." "Thank you." He didn't move immediately, his blue eyes studying her with what seemed like genuine interest. "I don't suppose you'd be willing to join me for dinner later. I'd love to learn more about the station from someone who knows it well." Aurelia stared at him, momentarily speechless. No one had ever invited her to a social meal, certainly no male of any species. She scanned his face for signs of mockery or hidden agenda, but found only open curiosity. Yes, she found herself saying, surprising herself as much as him. I would be available after my shift ends. Great. How about the Cosmic Palette at 1900 station time? Marcus suggested, naming one of the more popular establishments on the recreation deck. I will be there, Aurelia confirmed, still not entirely believing the exchange was happening, with another smile and a nod. Marcus continued on his way, leaving Aurelia standing in the concourse, feeling strangely light, as if the artificial gravity had been recalibrated. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of routine maintenance and status reports. The core fluctuation had been minor, a harmless power surge in one of the auxiliary systems. By the time 1830 arrived, Aurelia found herself standing in her quarters, facing a dilemma she had never anticipated: what to wear to a social dinner. Her standard engineering uniform was practical but utilitarian. After some deliberation, she selected a flowing garment in deep blue that complemented the golden energy beneath her skin. It was a traditional Solarian design, modified to accommodate her height and unique physiology. The Cosmic Palette was already crowded when she arrived. The establishment prided itself on offering authentic cuisine from dozens of worlds, and its central location on the recreation deck made it popular with both station residents and visitors. She spotted Marcus at a corner table, already waiting. He stood as she approached, another human custom she found oddly pleasing. You look beautiful, he said as she sat down opposite him. That color suits you perfectly. No one had ever called her beautiful before. The golden energy beneath her skin pulsed more brightly in response to her emotional state. Thank you, she replied, struggling to maintain her usual composure. You are punctual, an admirable trait. Marcus laughed, a warm sound that put her at ease despite her nervousness. Military training, hard to shake. How long have you been stationed on Nexus 7? 3 years as chief engineer. I was part of the team that installed the gravity core during the station's construction 5 years ago. Their conversation flowed more easily than Aurelia had expected. Marcus asked intelligent questions about her work, showing a surprising knowledge of gravitational engineering principles. In turn, she found herself curious about Earth and its rapid expansion into space. We were lucky, Marcus explained as they enjoyed their meals. A Solarian dish for her, something called pasta for him. We discovered the remnants of an ancient jump gate in our outer solar system. Reverse engineering that technology accelerated our development by centuries. Fortune favors the prepared, Aurelia noted. Your species adapted quickly. We're good at that. Adaptation is practically our superpower. His eyes lingered on the golden energy flowing beneath her skin. May I ask about your abilities? I've heard Solarians have been experimenting with gravitational manipulation, but I've never met someone who embodies the technology. Most people avoided mentioning her difference so directly. Strangely, his forthright curiosity didn't offend her. My parents authorized genetic modifications before my birth. The procedure was more successful than anticipated. It's extraordinary, Marcus said, his admiration evident. The way the energy flows through you, it's like watching stars being born. Before Aurelia could respond, a shadow fell across their table. 3 Solarian males stood there, led by a familiar face. Taran, a mid-level engineer who had never hidden his disdain for her. Consorting with humans now. Aurelia? Taran's voice carried the distinctive harmonics of contempt. How appropriate. 2 anomalies together. Aurelia felt the familiar tightening in her chest, shame mingled with anger. Before she could respond, Marcus spoke. Friend of yours? He asked her, his tone light but his eyes sharp. Colleague, she replied stiffly. Marcus turned to Taran, his smile unchanged but something harder entering his gaze. I'm Marcus Clark, Earth Diplomatic Corps, and you are? Someone concerned about proper Solarian conduct, Terran replied. Our species has standards to maintain. Interesting, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. On Earth, we consider it poor conduct to interrupt private conversations. Perhaps galactic standards differ. Terran's skin flushed with anger. You know nothing of our ways. Human. I know enough to recognize when someone's being rude, Marcus countered, his voice still pleasant but carrying an unmistakable edge. If you have business with Chief Engineer Solaris, perhaps you could schedule a meeting during work hours. The tension stretched between them. Terran, clearly unused to being challenged, finally, he sniffed dismissively. We'll discuss this later. Aurelia, when you're among your own kind. As they walked away, Aurelia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. I apologize for that interruption. Marcus shook his head. No need. Every species has its share of jerks. He smiled again, the warmth returning to his expression. Besides, I'm enjoying your company too much to let someone like that ruin our evening. Their dinner continued, the incident fading as they discovered shared interests in theoretical physics and stellar cartography. By the time they finished their meal, Aurelia realized she had talked more in these few hours than in the previous month. As they walked together along the curved promenade that offered spectacular views of the nearby nebula, Aurelia found herself relaxing in a way she rarely did in public. Something about Marcus's presence, his easy acceptance of her, made her feel less alien, even among the diverse crowd of the station. Their pleasant evening was shattered by the sudden wail of emergency sirens. Aurelia's communicator buzzed urgently at her wrist, displaying a critical alert. Gravity core instability detected. Chief engineer report immediately. I have to go, she said, already calculating the fastest route to the core chamber. I'll come with you, Marcus offered immediately. She started to refuse. The core chamber was restricted to authorized personnel, but the urgency of the situation overrode protocol concerns. Follow me. They raced through suddenly crowded corridors as the station's emergency protocols activated. Aurelia's security clearance allowed them to bypass the public transit tubes, accessing the more direct maintenance shafts. When they reached the engineering level, chaos reigned. Technical staff rushed between workstations, alarm indicators flashing on multiple screens. Report, Aurelia commanded, her authoritative tone cutting through the noise. The deputy chief, a proxyman engineer named Valtek, hurried over. Core pressure building beyond safe parameters. Containment field fluctuating. We've initiated emergency protocols, but the system is rejecting override commands. Aurelia moved to the main console, her fingers flying over the controls as she assessed the situation. The readings made no sense. The safeguards she had personally installed should have prevented this kind of cascade failure. This isn't a malfunction, she realized aloud. The core's been sabotaged. Marcus stepped forward, his casual demeanor replaced by focused intensity. What kind of sabotage could affect a gravity core? Aurelia gave him a sharp look, surprised by his technical question. Someone's introduced a quantum resonance pattern that's disrupting the containment harmonics. If the core destabilizes completely, the station tears itself apart, Marcus finished grimly. How long do we have? 30 minutes, maybe less. She turned to Valtek. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the emergency shelters. Initiate containment protocol Epsilon 9. As the deputy chief hurried to comply, Marcus lowered his voice. Aurelia, I need to tell you something. I'm not just a diplomat. I'm with the Earth Defense Force, Special Operations Division. We received intelligence that someone might target Nexus 7's gravity technology. The revelation should have angered her, being deceived, but in that moment, all that mattered was saving the station. Can you help? Marcus nodded. I have a prototype gravity shield generator. It was designed to protect ships from gravitational weapons, but it might help stabilize the core long enough for you to reset the containment field. Get it, she instructed. I need to access the core directly." While Marcus retrieved his equipment, Aurelia prepared for direct intervention. Few knew that the station's gravity core had been partially modeled on her own unique abilities. The same energy that flowed beneath her skin powered the massive core, though on a much larger scale. By the time Marcus returned, carrying a sleek device of clearly advanced design, Aurelia had donned a specialized containment suit that would channel rather than block her energy. "That's EDF technology?" she asked, eyeing the device. "Reverse engineered from the same ancient tech that gave us jump gates," he confirmed. "It creates a localized field that can temporarily stabilize gravitational fluctuations." "It won't be enough alone," Aurelia said, making rapid calculations. "But combined with my abilities, it might work." She looked him directly in the eyes. "This will be dangerous. The core chamber will be experiencing extreme gravitational shifts. If you want to leave—" "I'm staying," Marcus interrupted, his determination clear. "Just tell me what to do." They entered the core chamber together, the massive spherical room housing the technological heart of the station. At its center, a swirling vortex of golden energy, similar to Aurelia's but vastly more powerful, pulsed erratically within a containment field that flickered ominously. "The resonance pattern is accelerating the decay," Aurelia observed, checking the readings on her wrist device. "We need to get closer." As they advanced toward the core, the gravity began to fluctuate wildly. Objects not secured to the floor started to float, then crashed down, then floated again in unpredictable cycles. "Activate your shield," Aurelia called as a particularly violent surge rippled through the chamber. Marcus deployed his device, and a shimmering field of blue energy expanded around them, temporarily stabilizing their immediate environment. "It won't last long at this intensity," he warned, adjusting controls on the device. "Maybe 10 minutes. "That will have to be enough." Aurelia reached the main control panel and began overriding safety protocols to access the core's quantum programming directly. As she worked, Marcus positioned himself beside her, the shield generator humming with increasing strain. "I'm picking up unusual energy signatures," he reported, checking a scanner attached to his wrist. "3 distinct patterns, moving away from this section." Aurelia glanced up briefly. "The saboteurs. They must have triggered the cascade and are now escaping." "Can you handle this alone?" Marcus asked, clearly torn between staying with her and pursuing the perpetrators. "Go," she instructed. "If they escape, they could try again elsewhere. I can stabilize the core." After a moment's hesitation, Marcus transferred the shield generator to her. "The blue control extends the field. The red initiates emergency boost. 10 seconds of maximum power, then burnout. Be careful." With a last look that conveyed more than words could, he departed, leaving Aurelia alone with the increasingly unstable core. The moment Marcus left, Aurelia felt the full force of the destabilizing gravity field. Even with the shield generator, the pressure was immense. She knew what she had to do, something she had never attempted before, something potentially fatal. She would have to sync her own gravitational energy directly with the core. Disengaging the safety protocols on her containment suit, Aurelia allowed her golden energy to flow freely. The molten light beneath her skin brightened until she glowed like a small sun. Placing her hands directly on the core housing, she began to channel her energy, seeking to counter the destructive resonance pattern. Pain lanced through her as the energies fought to align. The shield generator whined in protest, its blue field flickering as it struggled to maintain integrity. Sweat beaded on Aurelia's forehead as she pushed harder, forcing her consciousness into the swirling vortex of the core itself. There, in that space between matter and energy, she could sense the malicious code, a virus of quantum mathematics, elegant in its destructive simplicity. Using her innate connection to gravitational forces, she began to rewrite it, imposing her will upon the chaotic patterns. Meanwhile, Marcus raced through the station's maintenance tunnels, tracking the energy signatures with his scanner. The trail led him toward the diplomatic sector, confirming his suspicions about who might be behind the sabotage. He emerged into a rarely used corridor, just in time to see three figures hurrying toward a private docking bay. Their forms were obscured by hooded cloaks, but their height and movement patterns marked them as Varians, a species known for their advanced technological capabilities and their territorial disputes with Earth's expanding colonies. "Stop!" Marcus called, drawing the compact pulse weapon he had concealed beneath his diplomatic attire. The three figures turned, dropping their cloaks to reveal the distinctive scaled skin and ridge-crested heads of Varian males. The leader, taller than the others with crimson markings across his face, smiled coldly. "Earth Defense Force," he said, his translator rendering his sibilant speech into standard. "How predictable. I am Krell, and you are too late." "The core stabilization has already begun," Marcus replied, keeping his weapon trained on them. "Your sabotage failed." "Did it?" Krell's expression remained smug. "The core was merely a distraction. While your station's security focused there, we acquired what we truly came for." He held up a data crystal containing a pulsing golden light. "The complete schematics for Solarian gravitational manipulation technology. Imagine it. Gravity weapons that could crush your fragile human colonies with the press of a button." Marcus's mind raced. The sabotage, the timing of the diplomatic mission, it had all been a cover for technological espionage. And now he faced three Varian operatives alone, with the station still in danger. "You won't make it off this station," he warned, even as he calculated his odds. Not good against three Varians, renowned for their combat abilities. "Your confidence is misplaced," Krell replied. At a gesture from him, his two companions, Morton and Pax, according to the insignia on their combat suits, moved to flank Marcus. The fight erupted in a blur of motion. Marcus fired his pulse weapon, catching the rightmost Varian in the shoulder and sending him spinning into the wall. The other two closed in rapidly, their natural speed making them formidable opponents. Marcus blocked a strike from Morton, using the Varian's momentum to throw him into Pax. As they untangled themselves, he launched himself at Krell, targeting the data crystal. His fingers closed around the device just as Krell delivered a powerful blow to his midsection, sending him crashing to the floor. Gasping for breath, Marcus rolled away from a follow-up strike that cracked the floor plating where he had been. He came up in a defensive stance, the data crystal now in his possession. "Return that immediately," Krell demanded, his previous composure cracking. "I don't think so," Marcus replied, backing toward the corridor junction. If he could reach the main concourse, station security would... His planning was interrupted by a violent tremor that shook the entire section. The gravity suddenly reversed, sending all four of them crashing into the ceiling, then normalized just as abruptly, dropping them back to the floor. "The core," Marcus realized aloud. "Your sabotage is more effective than you thought. The entire station is at risk now." Krell's expression showed genuine alarm. Whatever their mission objectives, the Varians hadn't planned on destroying the station entirely, or themselves with it. Another violent tremor, stronger than the first, rocked the corridor. Warning lights flashed as emergency bulkheads began to close automatically. "We need to get to our ship," Krell announced, abandoning the confrontation in favor of survival. "Morton, Pax, move!" As the Varians retreated toward their docking bay, Marcus faced a critical decision: pursue them or return to help Aurelia. The increasingly violent gravitational fluctuations made the choice clear. Without a stable core, no one would leave the station alive. He sprinted back toward the core chamber, forced to take a circuitous route as emergency protocols sealed off direct paths. By the time he reached the engineering level, the situation had deteriorated dramatically. Equipment floated freely in defiance of artificial gravity, while in other sections, technicians struggled to move under forces twice normal. The core chamber itself was a maelstrom of energy when Marcus finally reached it. The door had been sealed, but through the observation window, he could see Aurelia, surrounded by a nimbus of golden light so bright it hurt to look at directly. She appeared to be physically merging with the core, her body partially translucent as her energy interfaced with the larger system. The shield generator lay on the floor, its housing cracked and dark. It had failed, leaving Aurelia with only her innate abilities to combat the cascade failure. Marcus overrode the door's safety lockout with his EDF authorization codes. The moment the seal broke, he was nearly thrown across the room by conflicting gravitational fields. Only by grabbing a support strut did he manage to stay grounded. "Aurelia!" he called, fighting his way toward her against forces that alternately tried to crush him and fling him away. She couldn't hear him. Her consciousness was deep within the core's quantum matrix, fighting a battle on a level Marcus could barely comprehend. But as he struggled closer, he realized her energy was faltering. The golden light pulsed erratically, dimming in concerning intervals. She was losing the fight. Without conscious thought, Marcus retrieved the damaged shield generator. The main systems were fried, but the emergency boost, the one that would burn out the device completely, might still work. Reaching Aurelia's side cost him dearly. Twice he was lifted and slammed down. The second time feeling something crack in his rib cage. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye, and every breath brought stabbing pain. But he made it. "Aurelia," he gasped, though he knew she couldn't hear him. "I'm here." Pressing the shield generator against the core housing where her hands connected to the system, Marcus activated the emergency boost. The device flared to life one last time, the blue field expanding to encompass both Aurelia and the core interface. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The shield's energy synchronized with Aurelia's golden light, amplifying and stabilizing it. The combined technologies, ancient Earth and modified Solarian, created a harmonic pattern that countered the sabotage code perfectly. For 10 brilliant seconds, the chamber was filled with a dazzling display of blue and gold energies intertwining, forming patterns of mathematical perfection. Then, as the shield generator gave its final surge and died, the core pulsed once, twice, and stabilized. The violent gravitational fluctuations ceased. Objects suspended in midair fell gently to the floor as normal gravity reasserted itself. Warning klaxons faded to silence. Aurelia collapsed as her connection to the core severed, her golden energy dimming to its normal intensity. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "Did it work?" she whispered, her eyes focusing slowly on his face. "It worked," he confirmed, supporting her as she struggled to stand. "The core is stable." Before they could say more, the chamber door slid open to admit Commander Drill, the station's commanding officer, accompanied by a full security team. "What in the 7 systems happened here?" the commander demanded, surveying the damaged chamber. "Sabotage, sir," Marcus replied, straightening despite his injuries. "Varian operatives. They attempted to steal Solarian gravitational technology while distracting us with the core destabilization." "Varians?" Commander Drill's expression darkened. "Their delegation arrived yesterday." "Not diplomats," Aurelia said, her strength returning gradually. "Spies. They introduced a quantum virus into the core system." "And you stopped it?" The commander looked between them skeptically. "Chief Engineer Solaris stopped it," Marcus corrected. "I just provided an assist with some EDF technology. She's the one who synchronized with the core directly, something I'm pretty sure no one else could have done." Commander Drill's attention focused on Aurelia, seeing her perhaps for the first time not as an anomaly but as the station's savior. "Is this true, Chief Engineer?" Aurelia nodded, her posture straightening with pride she rarely allowed herself to display. "The core and I share certain resonance patterns. I was able to counter the sabotage code directly." "The Varians," Marcus interjected. "They were headed for Private Docking Base 7 with stolen data. If you hurry. Already handled, the commander replied. Your emergency transmission activated our security protocols. Their ship has been contained, though they're claiming diplomatic immunity. His expression suggested what he thought of that claim. As emergency medical teams arrived to treat the injured, including Marcus with his cracked ribs, the full story emerged. The Varian diplomatic mission had been a cover for an elaborate espionage operation. The data crystal Marcus had recovered contained not only Solarian gravitational technology schematics, but also plans for a new type of gravity-based weapon. In the medical bay, Aurelia sat beside Marcus's treatment bed, watching as automated systems repaired his injuries. You lied about being just a diplomat, she said, though there was no accusation in her tone. Not entirely, he replied with a wince as the bone knitter worked on his ribs. I am with the diplomatic corps. The EDF role is supplementary. You risked your life coming back to the core chamber. Marcus met her gaze steadily. I couldn't leave you there alone. The simple statement hung between them, carrying more weight than either had expected. No one has ever done that before, Aurelia said quietly, the golden energy beneath her skin pulsing gently. Risked themselves for me. Then they're fools, Marcus replied without hesitation. What you did in there, connecting directly to the core, rewriting quantum code with your mind, it was the most extraordinary thing I've ever witnessed. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the soft beeping of medical equipment. What happens now? Aurelia finally asked. With the Varians? With you? The Varians will face interstellar justice, Marcus said. As for me, he paused, considering. My mission was to investigate potential threats to Earth's interests in this sector. I'd say I found one, and an important ally too. 3 months later, Nexus 7 had fully recovered from the sabotage attempt. The damage had been repaired, security protocols enhanced, and diplomatic relations with the Varian Consortium severely restricted pending the outcome of the espionage trial. Aurelia Solaris, now officially recognized as the station's chief engineer with expanded authority, stood on the observation deck overlooking the docking bays. The golden energy beneath her skin pulsed contentedly as she watched a sleek Earth vessel dock in the newly designated Earth Defense Force berth. She no longer moved through the station's corridors alone or ignored. The story of how she had saved Nexus 7 had spread quickly, transforming perception of her from frightening anomaly to respected protector. Even Terran and his associates had been forced to acknowledge her contribution, though they did so with grudging formality rather than genuine warmth. But their opinions mattered less to her now. She had found something she hadn't known she was seeking: acceptance. Yes, but more importantly, partnership. The airlock cycled, and Marcus stepped onto the station, now wearing the formal uniform of an EDF research director. When he spotted Aurelia waiting, his face broke into the same genuine smile that had first caught her attention. Director Clark, she greeted him formally, though her pulsing energy betrayed her pleasure at seeing him. Chief Engineer Solaris, he replied with equal formality, before breaking into a grin. Or should I just say, I missed you, and be done with it? Both are accurate, she conceded, returning his smile with one of her own, something that had become easier with practice. As they walked together through the concourse, Aurelia noticed the difference in how others perceived them. Where once there had been whispers and averted gazes, now there were respectful nods and even friendly greetings. Their relationship, professional, personal, and increasingly romantic, had become something of a symbol on the station, a tangible example of how differences could become strengths when combined. The new EDF research wing is ready, Aurelia informed him as they entered the transit tube that would take them to the engineering sector. Your team can begin work immediately. Good, Marcus replied. After what happened with the Varians, Earth Command is taking gravitational technology very seriously. They want defensive applications primarily, but you know how these things go. Indeed, Aurelia had seen too often how defensive technology could be repurposed. That's why I insisted you head the research division. Someone with both technical knowledge and ethical judgment. Marcus gave her a sidelong glance. Was that the only reason? The golden energy beneath her skin brightened perceptibly, a reaction she had stopped trying to hide around him. Perhaps not the only reason. As the transit tube carried them toward their shared future, Aurelia reflected on how much had changed in such a short time, from isolation to connection, from shame to pride in her unique abilities, from fear of rejection to the warmth of acceptance. All because one human had dared to smile at her massive form when no alien male would approach. Later that evening, they stood together on the private observation deck attached to the chief engineer's quarters. Through the transparent dome, the magnificent swirl of the nearby nebula painted the room in shades of purple and blue, interplaying beautifully with the golden light emanating from Aurelia's skin. "I received a message from my parents today," she said as they gazed at the stars. "They wished to visit the station, to see me." Marcus knew the significance of this. Aurelia's relationship with her parents had been strained since her genetic modifications had exceeded their expected parameters. They had created her to be extraordinary, but had been unprepared for just how different she would become. "That's good news, isn't it?" he asked carefully, watching the emotions play across her expressive face. "I believe so," she replied. "They said they are proud of what I accomplished during the crisis. It is the first time they have expressed pride since I was a child." Marcus took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, unafraid of the energy that pulsed between them. They should be proud. Their daughter saved thousands of lives. "With help," she reminded him, squeezing his hand gently, always mindful of her strength. "Partnership," he corrected. "Something neither of us was looking for, but both of us needed." Aurelia turned to face him fully, the golden light beneath her skin brightening with emotion. "I never imagined finding acceptance, much less." She hesitated, still sometimes struggling with expressing deeper feelings. "Love?" Marcus suggested, stepping closer to her. "Yes," she acknowledged, the word both foreign and right. "Love," as their lips met in a kiss that bridged species, cultures, and all the empty space between stars. Aurelia knew with certainty that she had found her place in the universe, not despite her differences, but because of them. And somewhere in the vast, cold expanse of space, as if responding to their union, a new star flickered into life, adding its light to the cosmic dance of creation.